He had some big parts written for him, but in the second season he was away a lot of the time and you had to take his place. And he said that he didn't really like it, but a good friendship came out of it. How long did that take?
Well, the truth of the matter is, I'm generally sensitive to the point of being paranoid. So if somebody's looking at me askance, they're looking at me, sideways, and there's something less than total affability in their countenance, I'm very acutely aware. What's the problem here? I was never aware of George being upset. I read his book, and I heard that he was very envious and he was upset with me. I never knew it. He handled it very well. He handled it very professionally. So, it was all good for me, anyway.
Thank you.
До свидания.
До свидания. Здравствуйте, товарищи. Как поживаете? That's all I know. Don't ask me.
Then the question has already been answered because what I wish to ask you is in real life, do you really speak fluent Russian?
No, I don't.
And have you ever been to Russia or the Soviet Union? And how did they receive you there?
I have not been to the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union. I have been invited to go in the spring by a group of fans who are Babylon 5 fans. Isn't that curious? Who they like? For those of you who are familiar with Babylon 5, I was a member of the Psi Corps, which is this unusual group of people who were telepaths. And so they've invited me to come. I think they might be running into some problems financially because they have now recruited some Star Trek fans to also help make this happen. So my understanding is it's not a convention, it's a party. And they just want to bring me to Russia for a party. And I'm jumping at the opportunity because this is my home and my parents. And I would like to pay some homage, to that history. And I don't know when I'd have another opportunity. So I thought this would be very cool if it works out. So and they asked me if Stalingrad or Moscow. Oh no, not Stalingrad. No, St. Petersburg or Moscow. And I said I'd rather go to Moscow. So I want to get the flavor more of Eastern Europe and of the way Russia was, as opposed to the Western influences, which apparently are more evident in St. Petersburg.
Petersburg is also very nice.
Yeah. Okay.
We got another question over here. When you started on Star Trek, did you have any input on your role as Chekhov, or did he just tell you, well, this is the accent and work with this like that?
No, they left me on my own entirely. I was never given any input. I've told this story at least 1,000,000 times on the possibility that being locked away in the Netherlands, far from the rest of the world, that you haven't heard of it, which I don't believe. When I auditioned for the part, I told you the character's name was Jones, and I read over the script before I went in to read for it, and it was a very serious scene. And, excuse me, the character says, "Captain, the ship is about to blow up. What are we going to do?" And I worked on that. And what's happening? How is he feeling? He's a young man. His life is about to expire. There's going to be a catastrophic explosion on the ship. I was working on all of that stuff when I went in to read, and when I got done, all the people there who were making decisions sort of kind of looked to the side, looked at each other, and looked at their toes, and they said, "Yeah, that's nice, Walter, but can you make it funny?" Funny? But being an actor and, following direction, as I have been taught to do, the actual reading that got me the part was something in the order of, Captain, guess what? The ship is about to blow up. So that's the only direction I ever got. You know, after that I was pretty much on my own. Pretty much on my own. And the other funny thing was that I read, and only one other actor read. Only one other actor read for the part. That's unheard of now, you know. And then I was asked to wait. And I waited in the outer office. And then I saw the other actor go in, a fellow that I had worked with. We had played French resistance fighters on a series called Jericho back in the middle 60s. And he went in, and he didn't come out. And I waited, a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. I said, help me, the sun is starting to set. There's nobody there. Everybody had left by another door. And somehow they'd forgotten, you know, to excuse me or to let me go. And finally, the wardrobe man came in and said, are you Walter? And I said, yeah. He says, come with me. So I go with him to the wardrobe. I'm standing there, my hand to God. He drops to his knees, puts his hand up under my crotch. And I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I've got to measure you for a costume, don't I? That's the way I found out I was on Star Trek.
What a way to go.
Yeah.
That's what speed.
I think I answered the question. Yes.
The fans, they really like you being here. But what do you think about being here?
What I think of being here? I thoroughly enjoyed being here. I wish I were here longer. You know, my experiences even in cities in the United States is that I never have enough time to really absorb all the atmosphere. But I did, you know, I was in Utrecht, close twice, both on Friday and Saturday, and I got to walk around and see the people, and I love your brick pavements, your brick surface round. I think that's very charming, and the little alleyways and the stores. It's very, very charming. That's the kind of thing that I look for when I go to another place. The thing is that I never know whether the folks that I meet at Star Trek conventions are representative of the population. Because if they were, then there would never be wars. And there never would be this kind of hate that we experience time and again in the world. Because Star Trek fans are generally speaking, you know, there's always an odd person in the group, but they're full of the sense of brotherhood and passion and let this be a better world. And so that doesn't change. You know, whether I'm in Germany, or whether I'm in Australia, or whether I'm in Brazil, in Italy, that doesn't change. That's the same. And you know, I always say, if you folks were running things, I don't think we'd have the concerns that we do, and I don't think that the world would be on the brink as it seems to be so often. So, as I say, my experience with the folks in different cities and different countries is uniformly positive, and personality, the group personality is very, very similar. I mean, it's extraordinary. You can go thousands and thousands of miles and find the same kind of people, and that's great. I don't know how everybody else is. I just know about the people that I meet.
We got another question here on your right-hand side of the...
My right-hand side?
Yes. Hello, sir. Which role do you prefer? The role in Star Trek, Chekhov, or the role in Babylon 5, Brewster?
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. in what context do you mean that?
Which character do you like
Ah.
the most?
Character is different.
To play
That's a good question. In fear of alienating people, I've got to tell you that playing Bester was a really much more rewarding experience. It was much more challenging. Much more dimensional character. Had more to do. I mean, whenever Bester appeared in an episode of Babylon 5, he was really fully involved in the story. He wasn't sitting there going, "What vector for keeping?" You know, he was really a part of what was happening. So, and the character kept growing. Joe Straczynski, the creator, kept adding stuff, and I had to find a way to assimilate the new aspects. So it was still a cohesive personality. First you found out about him in one way, then you found out about something else. Then then it was, oh, he has loyalties, and a lot of what he does is based on his feeling of responsibility to his people. And then he also has a deep, passionate feeling for a woman. So all of this I learned in layers. I learned episodic, from episode to episode, and I had to find a way to make it work. So I guess it was reasonably successful. People seemed to like it. But sure, that was great. That was great. And if the new series, they did a spin-off. Oh, man. They did a spin-off. What was it called? Crusade. And Bester was written into the spin-off. Not into the first episode. It was like the 10th episode. And I had already gotten the script. And they were working on the 8th episode when the show was canceled. I had already memorized the lines. But it was really going to need a considerable involvement for Bester in the new series. There was all sorts of potential for him to keep coming back. How I would have loved to have done that role for another 2 or 3 years. That would have been really terrific.
We would have loved to see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're talking about Babylon 5.
We were just talking about Babylon 5. There are a couple of soundtrack characters that also played in Babylon 5. You, Michelle Roddenberry. Was there thought about it, or was it purely coincidence that also soundtrack actors were in Babylon 5?
Well, J. Michael Straczynski knew of my work from Star Trek. I knew him casually. I didn't know him well. And in fact, a couple of years before he actually sold the series, I had lunch with him. And he was talking about the fact that he might be able to sell a television series. He was working on Murder, She Wrote. It was a series at Universal. And he mentioned to me that he might be able to sell the series. But we never talked about my being involved in it, nor would I have been presumptuous enough to have asked him. But in 1993, just before this show went on the air, he contacted me and asked me, "Would you like to be on Babylon 5?" And I said, "Great." He had a part in mind. And then I was in Chicago, and I had a cardiac situation. I had a quadruple bypass, and I wasn't available to shoot that episode. It was going to be shot in about 2 months after I had that heart attack. And he was one of the first people that I called and said, you can't count on me for this part. I'm not well yet. So first he said, okay, we'll postpone shooting it. I said, whoa, that's amazing. Who does that? Who does that? Unless it's, is your parent, Not in our business. People just move on. Well, as it turned out, he couldn't hold the show. They ran out of scripts. They had to shoot it. They brought in another actor, an English actor, and he was excellent. He was truly excellent in the role. was just another character, a character that gets into the mind of the captain. I don't remember the name. But he called me back and said, "But I'm gonna write another part for you instead." Now, you know I don't know. I'm sure you've heard the expression, "In every dark cloud, there's a silver lining." Well, Bester was the silver lining, because instead of playing the character that he had in mind, which would have been one appearance, he wrote Bester, which became a recurring character, an opportunity to come back and play the role 12 times over the course of 5 seasons. So, there are good things about a heart attack. Don't let them tell you that it isn't so. Anyway, yeah, so and people were great. The folks were really terrific on Babylon 5. Everybody got along. It was a real sense of equality all the way down the line. Bruce Boxleitner and Jerry Doyle and everybody else, they were very accepting. There weren't any, and you can read between, you're allowed to read between the lines when I say this. There wasn't any, conflict or any sense of superordination and subordination. It was a group of people working together.
If they would ask you for a role of Chekhov in the next film, would you do it?
How could they? I mean, we have a new actor playing the role.
But just like Spock?
Well,
yourself?
It's such an unlikely. I mean, it's just really a hypothetical question, because I consider it beyond unlikely. First of all, they've already done it. They did it with Leonard, and there wouldn't be any point in doing it with anybody else. If they came to me and said, have another character in mind, would you like to do it? And it's not just a guy who stands up at the end of the movie and waves to the audience. Which was the science fiction movie where the original actors played the parents? One with Tom Davis, Still, or War of the Worlds? Which was what? Tom
Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah. Was that War of the Worlds or They There Stood Still?
Yeah.
War of the Worlds. Okay. Well, if you notice in the end, the people who played the parts originally were standing on the doorstep with their arms outstretched, and that was their part. I wouldn't want to do that. I would find that offensive.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be there for the purpose of putting my name on the screen, that wouldn't appeal to me. And any other possibility is really remote, so I don't really think about it. I was asked a question in Madrid, where I was a few weeks ago. Who am I competing with back there?
He's a nuisance.
I was asked in a Q&A if the reason I tell people that I like the new Star Trek movie was so that J.J. Abrams wouldn't be upset with me and use me in his next film. I said, no, I really don't think about J.J. Abrams using me in his next film. I just genuinely like the film. I thought it was a terrific movie. Okay. Anything else?
Walter, from the chat room I get a question. What are your feelings on Anton Yelchin re-imaging your character? It's a burning question with a lot of guys on the internet currently. Can you say something about that?
Yeltsin,